Guys, today we're doing something that I haven't done in a long time, which is going over Pride Wins tier list for Honkai Starro. If that wasn't clear from the thumbnail and title of this video, but it's been updated. I've waited a long while. I think I've missed the last 2 or 3 tier list updates that they've done. And I was trying to wait for everything to get collected so that I could see all the differences. And then we could take into account the new meta being like break effect or the follow-up having a huge rise in the game. And then, of course, we're still comparing everything to Acheron, right? Acheron's being like the pinnacle or the standard of what we compare DPS to in the game right now. But we also have the fact that we're coming from, I think the last time that I did this was Sparkle, right? Or around Sparkle. And there was a big fuss behind Sparkle or Ruan Mei. Robin came out. There's a big fuss behind Robin, Sparkle, Ruan Mei, Bronya, Pela and Tingyun, Silver. I remember distinctly saying Silver Wolf is going to go up. And I also remember saying that Silver was minimum a tier 1 character because at the time I think they had her in like tier 2 or something like that. And then I had a lot of flag. Silver's not great. Why do you keep recommending Silver? You're going to ruin people's accounts. Silver Wolf is not good. She's not a great pickup. You should always skip Silver Wolf. And here we are, where that one character in particular continues to climb up. She had one fall, and it was during the time period where like, hey man, we just don't need Silver. I'm like, all right, you don't need Silver. That's cool. Does not take away from her value. Boom. Here we are. Anyhow, let's jump into the tier list today. Going into the tier list, normally I'll read over the changelog and see what's happened, but I don't remember the last time that we talked about the tier list. A lot of this also, from what I could remember, yeah, a lot of this is about Apocalyptic Shadow. And then if we come down a little bit, we may see some things going into pure, or not pure fiction, for the regular game itself. Yun Li, I think, is now here. So we have the same criteria. I feel like I don't have to really explain this too much. But I will say, I'm still not a fan of not including the 5-star signature light cones for some of these characters. The reason I say that, and the fact that traces are at level 8, these drastically change a character's performance. Let me give you guys some examples before we get into the actual tier list. Zila, where's she at? Zila with traces at 888, no bueno. It's not that she's bad. It's just that she's not outputting Zila levels of damage that people are expecting. Her signature light cone, she's one of the few characters that can get away without her signature light cone. But then you look at a character like Jing Yuan, who can use another light cone that's not his signature, but he really wants his or someone else's signature light cone. His traces at 888 are not great at all. He is in a similar boat where he wants his traces to be maxed out, or at least the ones that matter, right? Skill and ultimate, and even the talent. So all of them, really. And Imbiber de Lune is another character. 888, you're not doing it. Jing Liu, 888, only her talent, I think, can be at 8 and you're fine, right? The crit rate or something like that, because that's something that you can make up for. 1010, you want that to be at least 10. Imbiber de Lune, you want that to be maxed out. Yun Li, now Yun Li is a new the Gen 2.5 character is what I'm calling them. She's a Gen 2.5 character. You can get away with 888 or 1088, 81010, whatever you want to spin it. It's fine. Topaz, 888. You don't want that. And without her signature light cone, it makes her role, especially being the debuffer and the follow-up attacker, or the follow-up attack enabler, it makes her role a lot harder to do. Yes, luxury, exactly. Part of their criteria for a lot of people, and this is why I bring this up a lot of the time, a lot of the people that look at what I place characters on for tier lists and why I value a different character is because I don't keep my traces or keep the traces at 888. The reason I'm saying that, again, is because some characters just perform significantly different. I don't know why the game is designed that way, but it is. A perfect example of this, if you guys have Sparkle, Black Swan, or let me find another one. Sparkle, Black Swan, and let's do Yukon. Their traces going from 8 to 10 feels like a huge difference. It's such a big difference that with Sparkle in particular, and I've done this a multitude of times when I was doing the testing for Sparkle. Sparkle at 888 is okay. She'll get the job done. You'll get what, I don't know, maybe like a 3 cycle, right? If we average it out. Taking her traces to 10 to max them out immediately started giving me 1 cycle or 0 cycle results. I played the exact same way. I did the exact same steps, but it was the traces, the power level in the traces jumped up the performance of the team, or her in particular to then aid the team. So those traces matter. Signature light cones, those matter for a lot of the roster. Even if we don't want to admit it, signature light cones in Star Rail are important. Acheron can get away with Good Night Sleep Well, right? S5, so that part is fine. Ratio can get away with cruising in the Stellar Sea, but he really wants somebody's signature light cone. Boot Hill can get away with whatever he wants. You know, he's got that 3-star, so it's fine. Swan can get away with some things, really wants her signature light cone, or at this point now, Jiao Shou's signature light cone. Kafka, same thing, really desires her signature light cone. Sparkle, being all the Harmony characters, really can get away with a multitude of different options. Dill Pickle really wants his signature light cone. Jing Liu really wants her signature light cone. Yun Li really wants her signature light cone. Can get away without using it, really wants it. So a lot of the characters, even Blade for that matter, right? These characters want their stuff. They want to be able to be equipped with their best options. However, I understand limiting the criteria to something that's fair for all characters is supposed to be a testament on like how much of a damage difference or a performance difference. Now that we've talked about that, we can actually talk about where things are placed, who might have gone up or who might have gone down. From what I can see, based on the last time I looked at this, and again, I could be wrong because it's been some months. Ratio was in tier 1. Dill Pickle and Jing Liu were in tier 0.5. Topaz, I want to tell you, was in tier 2. Silver was in tier 2. One of these were in tier 1, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember which one. Winifin was in tier 3. Asta was in tier 3. Sampo was in tier 2. Shui Yi might have still been here, if I'm not mistaken. No, Shui Yi was in tier 3 the last time I looked at a tier list. And Argenti, was Argenti next to Blade and Himiko the last time? I feel like they were here as well. Acheron being in tier 0, absolutely justified. And we'll go through like the DPS characters, right? So damage dealers, and then we'll go down and then stuff like that, yeah? Acheron in tier 0, cannot question this. The only other character that I think is going to hit this is Fei Xiao, as far as just a raw damage dealer goes, right? Ratio is not hitting Acheron levels. We've already come to, finally, we've come to the acceptance of this as a community. Dill Pickle and Jing Liu are just not on Acheron levels. It's gotten to a point now where I don't see as many Jing Liu mains, to be honest, saying anything about it, but I do see a lot of Dill Pickle mains saying things about it. Where at one point they were in denial, like saying like,
oh no, I don't see the hype by Acheron. Dill Pickle does blah 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 blah. He's superior. My Dill Pickle does so much more damage.
Whoever it may be, Daniel or Jing Liu mains, right? Anyone for that matter. It's very clear now, Acheron is uncontested. The only other character that could contest her in terms of damage output or damage performance is Firefly. Firefly is a damage dealer, but she is under the specialist category, so we'll talk about that in a bit. Going from that to from tier 0 to tier 0.5, we have Ratio. I think Ratio is solid. It's interesting to me to see that Ratio jumped up and then these two went down, both being Jing Liu and Imagine Dragon. I think it's interesting because Ratio, for a relatively speaking, if we're keeping things fair, 888 without their signature light cones, I don't think Ratio is a 0.5 DPS. I think, given the criteria, Ratio is still a tier 1 DPS. Now hear me out. Why do I say that? Because if Ratio doesn't have his premium options, that means that the team needs their premium options. I understand Ratio has a pretty solid free-to-play team, being what is it? Ratio, maybe Robin, Pela, and whatever sustain you want, I guess. I don't know. It really just depends on what you have. The ideal Ratio team is Ratio, Topaz, Robin, and Aventurine. Follow-up attack in general is probably, at this point, the most premium costing team if you want the best results. If you want the best damage performance, in my opinion, the best team to have follow-up attack is very expensive. Ratio, Topaz, Aventurine, and Robin. Topaz, you don't even want her by herself. You want E0S1 or E1S1. Robin, now we have a new light cone for her, so it doesn't matter. The March 7th, that light cone with a new March 7th on it, the Imagine, that's just busted for Robin. Absolutely put that on your Robin if you're free to play. Shit, even if you're not free to play, it's probably going to be a really good option. So I can't even say that she wants her signature on this team. He can get away with cruising, right? But again, with him with cruising, you want to make up for that damage difference by and the debuff difference by giving her E1S1. And then of course you have Venturing. Now you could replace Topaz with Silver. We'll get into that in just a moment. You could replace that with Silver. Two issues with Silver. Number one, most players did not pull her signature light cone. Number two, only players who played during patch 1.0/1.1 have access to a light cone called Before the Tutorial Mission Starts, which is one of the most busted Nihility light cones because of what it allows you to do, which it just gives you energy for defense reduced. When you attack someone who has a defense reduction, you gain like 8 or 16 energy, whatever the number is. Silver is always attacking a defense reduced enemy. Pela is always attacking a defense reduced enemy, which is why that light cone in particular on the both of them, as far as like getting energy, is just really good. Pushing through with Ratio, as I said, with the current criteria that Pridewind puts on themselves, I don't think Ratio is a 0.5 DPS. I think he actually fits in the same category as Jingliu and Dill Pickle. Now, I did see what Sarah's saying, and I do agree. Yun Li, again, 888 in mind, with Fall of an Aeon compared to Ratio, 888 in mind, with Cruising in the Stellar Sea. I actually think Yun Li is a 0.5 DPS character compared to Ratio. I think these two should swap. I think Yun Li should be in the 0.5 category and Ratio should be in the tier 1 category. After playing Yun Li extensively, and you guys know it, I've been all over Yun Li's dick since pre-release. Why are you guys making that frog face? What's going on? Is that turtle? Is that a turtle emote? What are you guys doing? Eo's in a Fuda. Yo, don't be putting out my search results, bro. Chill. You guys know it, I've been all over Yun Li's dick. Yun Li being 0.5 with the free-to-play options that we have available and the team options that we have available. If I were to limit their teams to 2 5-stars only, so Ratio plus Robin or whatever you want, Yun Li plus Robin or whatever you want, Yun Li's results are typically going to be better performing than Ratio's. Again, given the criteria that Pridewind has placed on their tier list. So yeah, given that criteria, we have what we have here. Okay, Yun Li has Lynx as her sustain option, and she's gonna heal herself anyway. So like, worrying about damage with a character like this, she's basically Blade but better, if you want to think about it that way. Lynx, that's a free to play option. You could use March if you really wanted to. You don't need to, but you could use March. But let's look at Ting Yun, right? Ting Yun, a lot of players love Ting Yun because same thing with where he's at, Argenti, buffing up the ult. But in Yun Li's case, it's not a double ult, like, oh yeah, I can save this up for one big ass ult for double the energy. No, she just has 2 ultimates, which I think is crazy, but it works. It's so well. It works so well. Ting Yun, you have 2 ults. You have an ult guaranteed every turn. You practically get 2 ults every turn with Ting Yun on the team. And if you're using things like Quid Pro Quo to give her the energy when she needs it, or give Ting Yun the energy when she needs it to then funnel it back into Yun Li. So your 2 limited, or your 2 5-star cost literally comes down to Yun Li and then Robin, or Yun Li and then Bronya, or Yun Li and Sparkle, Yun Li and Taupe, whatever you want, right? But Yun Li has a very solid free-to-play team, right? I say free-to-play because getting Yun Li and then getting another 5-star, you're guaranteed to get your 2 5-stars no matter how you play. No matter how you play Honkai Star Rail, it just comes down to how you plan it. Whether or not you have those characters doesn't mean that it's not free-to-play. Free-to-play accessible, thank you, yeah, that. And Ratio does have a pretty free-to-play accessible team as well, but he starts to lose out on things that he would want. So let's go down the list with Ratio. Ratio's best free-to-play accessible team would have been Ratio and then Silver. Why? Because Silver gives him all of the debuffs on a single target that he would want, so that he has 100% all the time. Versus Topaz E0 S0 with traces at 888, you are not going to be getting any of those debuffs close to what Silver does from one touch, right? Silver touches them one time, they have all 3 debuffs. Topaz touches them one time, they might have 1, they might have 2. This is not including any ultimates. So Silver and Ratio, great option. Again, what did most players do when Silver had her first run? Skip, because a lot of content creators, not me, told a lot of players skip Silver because the best route would be for you to collect the on element DPS character, as if spending more Jades for multiple characters wasn't a worse idea in the beginning of the game to spend Jades on one character that would make all your DPSs on element at all times. I'm just saying. Anyhow, now we're here. Moving past that, Silver had another rerun. I think it was a few months back. Same sentiment. Skip.
Why pull Silver when her value is so low? Silver's bad. Don't pull Silver. Silver, not good.
Ratio loves Silver. So here we are. Your team options. If I'm building a two 5-star team, Ratio and Silver, we can go with Pela, right? Pela's great. And maybe a sustain because he'll die if you don't have that. So Gallagher. Let's do Gallagher. Yeah, Gallagher. Gallagher can also apply a debuff when he uses ultimate. That team is not going to outperform the Yun Li team. It's just not going to keep up. You don't have your Harmony unit, and you don't need Pela. You could replace Pela with, again, sticking to my 2 5-star limit here. I guess you could also give him Ting Yun, but the team is still not going to outperform the Yun Li because Yun Li's damage performance is not dependent on her team specifically. She's just gonna do it, right? You play the character well, she's just gonna do it. The team benefits by buffing her up or debuffing the enemy. You could say the same thing about Ratio, but he is dependent on them doing that. If they don't do that, he doesn't get the damage. If they don't do something for Yun Li will still get her damage off one way or the other. She gets attacked 9 times. That's 9 different big ass swords she's throwing. Anyway, enough glazing. I've been here for like 20 minutes on Yun Li. I think Yun Li needs to be in 0.5. Ratio comes down to 0.1 or to tier 1. These two falling down makes complete sense. I've been talking about this or alluding to this for a little bit now. Jingliu cannot keep up. I've never had the same faith in Daniel that a lot of other players have. E0. I've never had the same faith. Let me clarify that. I believe in E2 Dill Pickle. I think E2 Daniel is up there. That's a strong ass DPS character, 100%. I don't believe E0 S0 Daniel keeps up with a lot of the meta. Jingliu off element, nah, she's not doing what she needs to. She's not cracking enemies. She's not chopping down multiple enemies, especially at 888 without her signature light cone. She's just not doing it. I don't even have to fight for. I'm not saying Jingliu needs to be bumped down beneath tier 1. I'm saying that Jingliu is no longer a 0.5 character. One thing that I do want to mention, it's okay for a tier to be empty, right? Like we have nothing in 0.5 or 1.5 over here for the specialist role. This could have happened for tier 0.5. Like there can be a gap. We don't need to fill in a 0.5 character just for the sake of filling in 0.5. If in the event we feel like Yun Li is a tier 1 character at 888 without her signature light cone, and we also feel like Ratio is a tier 1 character, 888, no sig, that's okay. It's okay to have this empty ass 0.5 tier because it makes it very clear Acheron is so damn strong compared to these characters that there is there's a whole tier worth of a gap. That's fine. That's okay. I believe that's okay. Moving down from that, we have the 1.5. You guys know me. I still don't agree with Zila being a 1.5. But actually, no, but she's tier 1. She's still a tier 1 character. At 888, she's one of the few DPS characters that work without her signature very well. Almost on par and sometimes better, depending on the fight. A high-level Zila, 888 S0 regardless, is performing on the same caliber as Jingliu and Dill Pickle. Because all of their traces are important. That's the problem. So they're like, they all suck or they're all really good, right? There's no in between with 888 traces for them in particular. If in the event they get to 10, 10, 10, a high level Zila comes with a high level or a high investment team. What does that mean? Most players do not farm win set. Win set is easily one of, if not the most broken set in the game because of what it allows a lot of characters to get away with. You give a character with a lot of speed or action advance forward, cough, cough, Sparkle, or Bronya, win set. And now what they do is every time they use ult, they have a mini dance in their pocket. You give them the fact that Bronya and Sparkle have a, what, 3-turn ult or something like that? And they go 3 turns, actually they go 4 turns in the same 0 cycle. Well, now they're guaranteed to get ult. They're advancing Zilla forward. Zilla is also advancing herself forward when you play this character correctly, which looks something like skill, basic skill, skill, basic skill, something like that. All on her own, yeah, because she advances herself forward so many times. She gets the kills with Resurgence. The thing that I just said was not with Resurgence, by the way. That's outside of Resurgence. Then you give her an advanced forward character, which now jumps her up even more in her favor. The advanced forward character can now jump themselves up with the use of their ultimate through the win set. Works in their favor. Why? Because now I can drag up whoever I want, i.e. Zilla or your DPS character in this case, so that they get another turn. In the event Zilla gets a kill, she gets another turn. She usually gets another ultimate by this point during the cycle. If you kill with the ult, that gives you 2 extra turns. So in total, Zilla takes going from what a normal DPS character would get, which is like, what, 2, maybe 3 turns a cycle with the action advance forward in mind. They take that. Zilla now has anywhere between 5 to 8 turns a cycle. And she's nuking people for the ultimate damage. Like, she's cracked. She's a really good character. Whew! We can go back over, or we can start with the Apex characters. I know that took a lot of time to talk about this, but we haven't gone over a tier list in a little bit. So there's a lot that I've kind of just been keeping to my own little inner bubble. We talked about Acheron being tier 0. Now we're talking about Firefly being tier 0. I think these 2 characters in particular are just like the definite, we are the pinnacle of what our meta is, right? The current team comp, the archetype, they are the pinnacle of that. I know a lot of people look at Acheron as the hyper carry, which to a degree, yes, Acheron is a definition of hyper carry. So she would be considered the hyper carry archetype, but I don't think she, like, on paper, she doesn't function the way that a hyper carry character would. If we take Daniel or Jing Liu, everything that's supposed to get funneled into these 2 characters comes from the rest of the team. So ideally, and again, let's just say like Daniel, right? Daniel, Sparkle, Daniel, Ting Yun, and Hue Hue. None of the 3 characters that I just listed for Daniel do anything else besides buff up Daniel, right? That's all they're doing. In Acheron's team, at a base level, not talking about E2, you have something like Acheron, Silver, Pela, and then Gallagher, right? Or no, I'll stick with that, yeah, because you have the two 5-stars, or even Aventurine if you happen to pull them, whatever the case may be. But it's usually Gallagher because of defense, because Aventurine needs his signature light cone. You could replace, you know, Pela with Gwenaifen, or you could just run Nose to Stain if you're brave enough, yeah? When you're using a team like that, even though, yes, Acheron is being hyper carried because the Nihility characters on the team, Pela is still doing her own levels of damage. It's not a lot, but she's doing whatever she can. Silver, if you build your Silver correctly, is absolutely doing damage. The break effect, right? If you build a break Silver, she's doing that. And then Gwenaifen is kind of like there. I don't have a lot of faith in Gwenaifen, but Gwenaifen does do her own sets of damage because that's just kind of what she does. It is what it is. Gallagher, when you build him correctly, he's doing his own break damage. He's healing the team, stuff like that. The team is a lot more aggressive in terms of how they play compared to a team like Daniel or Jing Liu, Jing Yuan, right? Where all of the supportive characters on the team are only there to funnel whatever they do into this main character. So again, the way Acheron works is, as someone mentioned in chat earlier, like a specialized hyper carry. But it's gotten to a point where I don't even call it hyper carry. I just call it the Acheron comp. Like, you're just playing Acheron, right? It's literally just the Acheron team or the Acheron meta, team comp, whatever the case may be. And this is, of course, with me giving them like free-to-play accessible teams. I could easily turn this into Dot Karan, which is definitely not hyper carry. But prior to Jiao Shou was her highest performing damage team or damage comp, and that's just not hyper carry. So it's the way you go about it. Acheron and Jiao Shou benefit each other because they work off of each other. And then of course you have, let's remove Pela, right? If I give you the premium team, 1, 2, You don't even need silver at this point because, and that's why I didn't mention Xiaoshu, is that Xiaoshu is so powerful in his own right. Now you can add a Harmony unit. You can now sacrifice the 2 Nihility requirement to get her maximum damage output. Xiaoshu adds so much extra damage that you don't need it anymore. Now I can put Robin on the team with Acheron, or Sparkle with Acheron. I can keep Xiaoshu, and I can bring Galagor Aventurine, and I'm still doing the same, if not oftentimes more damage than the 2 Nihility units on the team. That's how strong Xiaoshu is compared to, compared to the other like double Nihilities when you can put him on the team with Acheron. Going back to Firefly though, the reason I talked about Acheron for a little bit there was to explain the difference in Hypercarry. Firefly's team comp is Break meta, or the Break archetype, which can be devolved into 2 sets. Hypercarry Firefly, it's not even Hypercarry because like everyone else has to help you break. That's what I'm saying. Like Hypercarry in my head works where like only one character is doing the damage performing thing, right? Like they're the only one doing the performance on the team. Firefly's team, and we'll take a free to play thing, so I'm just not going to use Boot Hill here, right? Firefly isn't the only one doing the aggression, right? So it's Super Break. Yeah, you have the Harmony MC. Harmony MC is doing their own sets of damage. You have Gallagher or Venturine, then you have Firefly, and then you have whatever the fuck else you want, you know, for your Payla or something like that, or your team. I don't fucking know. Whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. You can replace the 4th character or like not have a 4th character, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. May, right? We like May around here, so May, and then you call it a day. You could replace on that same team, instead of using, what did I say before? May, Firefly, Harmony MC, and then like Gallagher or some shit like that. Replace your sustain with Boot Hill, and that team shits on anything in the game. Anything in the game that doesn't immediately kill it, that team shits on it. So, and it's purely just Break. Yeah, or Himiko, right? If you manage to work around it, done. So the Super Break team, or the Break meta, the Break archetype is its own thing. It's not Hypercarry, it's its own thing. And Firefly sits at the top of that. Boot Hill sits right beneath that. And so I think that archetype by itself is just so fucking strong. Now, we've been comparing Break meta to Dendro, which is good. I think that's a really good comparison. But let me actually see. I don't want to mispronounce his name here. He wrote up a really good like think piece for me to pretty much go over like how he feels about it compared to Genshin, and that he actually doesn't believe the Break meta is compared to Dendro, but I think he said he compares it more so to physical, or freeze, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, I'll come through and look at this, and then I'll have a much more defined thing. I haven't been able to read it yet due to being swamped, but I did tell him I was going to read it today, so I will do that. But we'll get into that, and I'll be able to talk about that and have a bit more perspective on that. But I do think that it's interesting how strong the Break meta is, the Break archetype is. The game has gotten to a point where I no longer believe Kafka and Swan are 0.5 characters. And that's crazy for me to say out loud, right? Because I love both of those characters. I like Dot. I think Dot is really good. When we consider the 888 factor, when we consider no signature light cones, which means no one else has it, and they're E0, I no longer believe these characters are 0.5. I think these characters go down to tier 1. And that's it. The only character that's in 0.5 as a specialist would literally be Boot Hill. Now, what I expect to happen, I actually think March is going to jump up. I don't think she's there yet, and I haven't done enough testing, but from what I've seen, March's her usage rate is going to skyrocket. In the next patch or the next little thing, whatever's going to happen, I think March is going to jump up to a 0.5 character. I think she's basically Topaz, but free and on crack with particular teammates. Let me make that very clear. If you pair her up with particular teammates, not everybody can have their reward participation rewards, right? But I think if you pair March 7th up with particular teammates, she jumps up to 0.5. It's ridiculous. Now we go into tier 1. We just talked about March going to 0.5, in my opinion. So I don't think I have to talk too much about her. Topaz, E0, S0 at 888. I'm not a fan. I'm still not a fan of this, bro. Not yet. She needs E6. Yeah. This is like future talk for March. But I'm not a fan of Topaz at E0 S0. She's decent, but that light cone, especially not her light cone, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that not having her light cone in particular and having 888, she's missing too much. She's missing too much benefit or value to bring to the team. That's how I feel about that character. Like, you can't have all of that, right? Like, she has all the debuffs stacked against her with the criteria present that I'm not a fan of. Yeah, she's half a character. Now, if this was E1 S0 888, you can get away with that because she's bringing more benefit. If this was E0 S1 888, you can get away with that because she's bringing more benefit. But 888 E0 S0, she's not bringing the same benefit that she would be bringing. Topaz works with Ratio. She works with Yun Li. To an extent, she works with Jing Yuan. She works with Clara. She works with Himiko. You could try and make her work with Blade. She works with Sui Yi. I think Topaz works amazing as a sub DPS character, where she does a good set amount of damage for herself, and she buffs up the next character who is doing more follow-up attacks in order to make them the main DPS character. Not equipping her with what she wants to help them do the thing that they want to do is bad. I think that is the bad decision that we're getting at there. Robin and Topaz enabling Robin to have more energy coming back is a direct result of someone else on the team doing follow-ups to make Topaz have more of them. Let's run this in a simulation. E0 S0 Ratio, E0 S0 Topaz, E0 S0 Robin, and then Gallagher, I guess. I don't know, right? He's not hitting his debuffs. She's not hitting or helping him hit the debuffs, right? Without ults in mind. Keep that in mind. And they're also both single targets, so they can't spread the damage. He misses, I don't know, let's say he's got a 60 out of 100% chance to hit these debuffs, right? That sounds about accurate. 60 or 80%. It's not 100%. I will give him the benefit and say 100% without including their ultimates. 100% for him to hit the follow-up. He hits that 2 out of 3 times. That means she gets 1 extra numby out of whatever the hell she's doing compared to what she could have been getting, which is guaranteed numbies every single turn. Robin then gets all the energy funneled into her from all the numbies and follow-up attacks happening. And then you get 2 ultimates within her same, like, welcome to my world, right? He said Topaz. Wait, what did you say? Topaz is pretty with white hair. She's smart, has a fat ass, and has Numby, who is a treasure chest finding glitch. Omega S tier. I could agree with this. Yeah, I could agree, especially the fat ass part. It is what it is. Skipping 1.5. I want to say Sui Yi bumped up from tier 3 to tier 2, but I could be wrong. I don't remember exactly. Sui Yi being here with the super break and Luca being here with super break, dot, and debuff. I think these are fine. Luca's gonna have another resurgence though. I think once we get another DOT character, or if we get the next DOT character is physical, Luca's not getting his he might get his rise again, but we'll see. But DOT is just in the dirt right now. I have seen some things on Jade. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Jade is not tier 3. Minimum Jade is tier 2. I do agree though that Jade is niche. So this is like the problem with the criteria now. I agree that Jade is a niche character, but I don't agree that Jade is tier 3. I think Jade actually gets bumped up to tier 2 and she's fine. Minimum. I think Sushong is still slept on. Not even from a damage performance thing, but from, like, if I'm looking at this purely from, what is it, 888 E0 or E6 S0, with the options she has available to her and super break, I think she's somewhere in this ballpark. Tier 3, tier 2. Sushong is not a tier 4 character. Yeah, her and Sui Yi are very similar. They are very similar. I think she's here, tier 2. Sushong needs to be up here. Welt being tier 3, again, honestly, he's just niche. It's one of those things where like I'm starting to think that Pride is slapping characters in tier 3 or like below for niche, not because of their value or strength entirely, but just because they're too niche. I think it's just because they're too niche. Like Yukong, I know, and I've said this for the last couple patches, I don't think Yukong is a tier 4 character. This character is easily one of the best amplifiers in the game if you know how to play. If you don't know how to play, she's ass. If you know how to play this, she's one of the best fucking amps you can have in the game. Easy. He's below all the other Nihility characters. He falls, he's one of the few DPS that fails. We're missing a category that we just don't acknowledge. It's gonna get acknowledged when Fei Xiao gets here. This category is gonna get acknowledged when Fei Xiao gets here, and it's the sub DPS category. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, we have a specialist like Topaz with the follow-up. I mean legit, you are gonna start looking at characters perform sub D. There's too much evidence being thrown in our face now. Fei Xiao, Mo's, March 7th Hunt, right? The imaginary. Now we can start properly building out teams, because think about it this way, right? Hyper carry is normally a bunch of harmony units, maybe one Nihility. Actually, it's not even a Nihility. Bunch of harmony units, maybe a sustain because you need that because you can't survive, and then your main DPS character. Yeah, because it's saying that, oh, if you funnel all of the damage or the buff into the DPS character, they outperform anything team-wise that would have someone sharing the damage. Well, now you have characters like Ruan Mei and Robin and Jiao Shou for that matter, who are buffing or debuffing the entire fucking field, which means now everyone on the team is doing or receiving the same buff or inflicting the same damage from the debuff that is possible. So it automatically makes characters on the same level. Welt underperforms in those. Welt can underperform in those scenarios, which again, I think him going into the niche category is why he's there. I'm not so much speaking on Welt's damage performance. I'm speaking on his DPS performance, or not, my bad. His ability to aid the team. Slow is something that I think was I think Slow was strong early on, and I kind of want to revisit it, because action value is very weird in this game, and then enemies are getting like significantly faster. I think Welt's slow, or just slow in general, I think that is actually like something that we're just not looking at anymore, but we should start looking at again, because slow reduces a set speed number, doesn't it? So if an enemy has 200 speed and then slow was like, all right, I'll reduce their speed by like 40%. 40% of 200, what is that? I just learned this today. 40% of 200, you would multiply the 4 times the 20, 80. So that would drop them from, yeah, 80. Oh yeah, look at me. I did math on the top of my head, bro. Let's go. Anyway, so that drops them down to 120. It takes their speed from 200 to 120, right? That's huge. And the fact that he also has the big ass delay, that's a big, like, I think I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna figure it out. Now, from that point though, I think Fire Trailblazer getting put in the dirt like that is crazy, bro. Because Fire Trail, all they need is more shield. Fire Trailblazer, man, I'm telling you, if they had a little bit more shield, tier 1 character. Not even for specialists, tier 1 sustain. A little bit more shield, tier 1 sustain, slap it on an Acheron team, call it a day. Why would you use Fire Trailblazer over Harmony MC? For Acheron. Because Acheron does not need Harmony MC. Anyway, let's talk about the Amplifier. Amplifier role. Not debating that. Cannot debate that. You know what I can debate though? This might be a hot take. So if you made it this far into the video, pat yourself on the back. Because I've been taking this video super slow. I haven't dropped an hour-long video in a long time. I didn't intend on doing this, but there's so much that I haven't talked about with Star Rail. So it's just, you know, take it in chunks if you guys need to. That's why I'm breaking everything down in like damage dealer, specialist, amplifier, and sustain. So it's 4 chapters. The video will have 5 chapters in total. So intro and then all these. and then we'll be done. But yeah, I do talk a lot. I be yapping. Anyhow, I think Robin is the only 0.5 harmony character or amplifier character in the game. Let me explain. This is very easy for me to explain as well. Sparkle, from anyone that is not quote unquote a Sparkle main, has all agreed on this. We've all agreed on this. Robin is basically like Mei, but not for break. The value that you get from Mei, we are now saying is equivalent to Robin, right? It's an argument. We can now properly have this debate, Robin or Mei. Even though I still think Mei, a lot of people still think Mei, but it's now getting to a point where now you can seriously have this debate without someone just shrugging you off and being like, whatever. Sparkle is not in that debate. Harmony MC is not in that debate. It is because of that reason they are not in that debate. And I say this plenty of times in other tier lists. If Robin is not tier 0 and she is in 0.5 and the other two characters are not in the same debate as Robin, they cannot, by definition, be in the same tier. You cannot have these two characters in the same tier if they are not on par with Robin. HMC is not on par with Robin. Sparkle is not on par with Robin, especially at, once again, E0, S0. 888 traces, mind you, not on par. Don't you think as soon as a DPS drops that wants crit damage and skill points, who is like the best character in the game, then Sparkle becomes tier 0 by that existence? When, where, and how would we get that? Most DPS characters already want crit damage. They do consume skill points. But what other character is going to consume 7 or 4 skill points in a rapid succession the same way that Daniel does? And also be stronger at this current point in time than Acheron, Firefly, and potentially Fei Xiao. It's way too much to ask for. And that's only to take advantage of what? Just Sparkle? I don't think they're going to release a DPS character to take advantage of just Sparkle. Now, I'm not saying that we won't get a DPS character in the future that consumes a lot of skill points. QQ is right there. Daniel's right there. We have the blueprint. Even Zila, right, with the resurgence. So it's very likely, it's easily could happen that we're going to get another DPS character that consumes more skill points. But what you just asked me for is so specific that you're basically saying make a new Daniel. That's literally what you're asking. You're saying make a new Daniel, release him, and then now he's number 1. And then Sparkle would, by definition, jump up into tier 0 category specifically for Daniel. When in reality, that would make Sparkle closer to the niche category than it would the higher up category. If a new Daniel releases and he is tier 0, him being tier 0, but Sparkle being the only character that can like really benefit him does not make Sparkle tier 0. It makes Sparkle a much more niche harmony unit that is glued to this new Daniel. And the only reason this new Daniel is in tier 0 is because of Sparkle. But that does not make Sparkle automatically tier 0 because Sparkle isn't competing with the other DPS characters in tier 0. She's competing with the value of the other harmony units. Or amplifiers in this case, right? Because you also have the debuffers that are being in there. So Sparkle has a lot of value to her for these other characters, but that doesn't make her value insane, right? And like I see you guys saying like with the, you know, she's good for Jing Yuan or, you know, good for QQ, things like that. Yes, she is good for them. That does not make her value more valuable or higher than Robin. The base argument here is not if Sparkle is good. Sparkle's great. Me determining her tier placement is not, and I always say this because I know a lot of other players or like people in the gacha community don't view tiers the same way that I do. A character not being in tier 0 to 0.5 doesn't make them bad. Me saying a character doesn't belong in a tier doesn't make them bad. I'm not saying they're ass. Sparkle's a great character. The argument at hand is whether or not Sparkle and Robin are in the same tier. The answer is no. These two characters are not in the same tier. By that sentiment alone, Harmony MC and Robin are also not in the same tier, which means they get bumped down. If we were to move Robin up to tier 0, which I'm not opposed to because at this point, that is the argument. Robin, or Mei. It's also getting to a point where originally the DPS characters were split into 3, right? Like it was like a triangle. A third of the teams loved crit and advance forward, right? So things from Sparkle or Bronya. Another third really loved what Mei brought to the table. Dual DPS, break effect, the extra delay, the penetration value, all that kind of stuff. And then that final third really valued Robin. Buff the entire team, maximum attack percent, or huge attack percent buff, advance forward the entire team. Like, it was crazy. Now, advance forward characters have more value from Robin, given the fact that you build her correctly, even at low investment, by the way. They get more value from Robin than they do Sparkle or Bronya as a team. So that argument is valid. I could easily accept Robin being in tier 0 with Mei, and that would still not make me say Sparkle and HMC are 0.5. I actually think I agree with Sarah here. Bump them down to tier 1. That it's okay to have an empty tier. You don't have to have something filled up all the time. I do think Mei is a lot more flexible than Robin, but I think Robin is so strong that it doesn't matter. Because think about it this way, right? It's, hey, do you have Mei? No. Do you have Robin? Yes. Okay, put Robin on the team. Flip it. Hey, do you have Robin? No. Do you have Mei? Yes. Okay, put Mei on the team. And then you're done. You're good. But you don't hear people saying, do you have Mei? No. Do you have Bronya? Yes. Okay, put Bronya on the team. Because it doesn't give you the same value, right? Now, if you're looking for only action advance forward, that's a completely different thing. And it does work out. You can put Bronya, Sparkle, Robin, whatever. Ting Yun with DDD, right? You can get away with that. But it's not helping you here. Because none of these replace the other. Sparkle doesn't replace Robin, especially again at 888 E0 S0. HMC does not replace Robin or Mei for that matter. In fact, these two work together, but it is what it is. So if I have a E5 S1 Mei and an E0 S0 Robin, I always put in Mei. Depends on your team, big dog. That E5, like, I don't know why the fuck you have an E5. But the fact that you do, I would leave my E5 Mei on every other team that does not have follow-up attacking in it. And I would only use Robin for my follow-up attacking team because that is where she would truly shine. And Mei would be so fucking strong. E6? Hey, bro, why don't you just donate like 500 so that I can get an E2 Jane Doe, huh? You goddamn whales. But in all seriousness, yeah, I would leave it on the follow-up and then put Mei everywhere else because she's just that damn good at that point. E6 is nuts. Ting Yun, tier 1, that's fine. Silver in tier 1, acceptable. Jiao Shou in tier 1, acceptable. Bronya in 1.5, and then no. Pela can stay in 1.5. I agree with that, especially with Jiao Shou being here now. I'm still of the same sentiment. Bronya and Sparkle are two sides of the same coin. Wherever Sparkle is, which at this point we've already kind of like determined Sparkle should be in tier 1, Bronya should also be in tier 1 with Sparkle. Why do I say this? In a majority of teams that would benefit from Sparkle, Bronya is more desired. But even at E0, bar a few, right? And these few are the ones that consume so many skill points. Bar a few, Bronya is desired more than Sparkle. The SP issue is only an issue if you play Bronya the way that you play Sparkle, which I think is bad. This also goes into like what I'm talking about with certain characters, like how you play their kit. Bronya advances herself forward by the same thing that Winset would give her. So giving her a Winset just gives her like 2-ish extra turns, give or take. Some crazy shit like that. But yeah, Bronya can function on her own. She gives herself her own skill point. In the event you needed it, right? You just have to play it correctly and you're good to go. But if I were to use my, you know, my golden trope here is Zila. Zila absolutely prefers Bronya over Sparkle, regardless of the quantum buff that's going to happen from that. Yo, Genesis, thank you for the 6 months. The subby sub, bro. I appreciate that. Regardless of the action, or not the action advance, the quantum buff that Sparkle gives, Zila prefers Bronya. Why? Because Zila also action advances herself forward, and her speed dwindles 99% of the characters in the game. Zila just blows a hole in everybody when it comes to the speed that she's able to do. And the only person that can keep up with that, as far as dragging you up from the very bottom of the action order to the top, is Bronya. Being able to, both of them, manipulate their own action values whenever you choose to do so. Once again, things get thrown out of whack. Bronya brings her all the way up to the top. So it works that way. But I don't want to harp on like Bronya versus Sparkle too much. This is just kind of like from extensively playing both on whatever teams, looking at a lot of the CN players playing on whatever teams. It's very Boot Hill and Bronya. Yep. It's there's just a couple different factors, right? It's not to say that either's bad. It's just to say that this one goes with this one. And if I'm putting them both, or rather if I'm dragging Sparkle down to tier 1, then Bronya gets brought up to tier 1 as well. I think the only 1.5 character would be Pela. Yeah, the rest of these are pretty niche. Going to sustain, right? No debating. Aventurine is tier 0. I've said this for a minute. I said this before he came out that he had the potential to be tier 0 and he was going to rival Fu Xuan. Now we're here where he has bumped Fu Xuan down. Something that I find interesting, though, is that I think Hua Hua is not on the same level as Fu Xuan. I actually think Hua Hua is stronger than Fu Xuan at this point, and offers more value to a number of different teams, team-wide, not just one character, to the point where now I do truly believe this is how I would do this. Aventurine, tier 0. Hua Hua, tier 0.5. Gallagher and Fu Xuan, tier 1. Luocha, bumped down to 0.5 or 1.5. Lynx stays in tier 1.5. Bailu, if we're going with the E2 thing, Bailu jumps up to tier 1.5. Japard stays at tier 2. But he does have the potential to jump up to 1.5 as well. These two characters are good. Don't let people tell you, like, if you have a Japard or a Bailu and multiple copies of them, that you're just, it's not good, right? Like, oh man, they're not going to function as good solo sustains. Yes, they will. Japard gives an amazing shield. You build him correctly, you'll have 3-turn ults, you're fine. Bailu she's the only character in the game with res. You're good. So if you do, for whatever reason, make a mistake and die, she revives you. And this works phenomenally. I'm going to build my Bailu back up at some point, but it's funny because in the event you were to die in MOC and it was going to count as a death towards you, Bailu reses you, same turn. You keep all your energy, the ult, whatever you would have had, pop it, you're good to go. Imagine your Acheron dying right before she gets her 9th stack, and you knew you would have killed in that cycle. And then Bailu's like, not today. Acheron comes back. She's like, oh, wow, it's crazy. It's my turn. You're dead. So it's cool. The rest of this, though, March and Natasha, I think they're kind of here. You know, you know what's funny? Jay, I didn't even see. I did not see his video with Bailu because he refuses to accept Bailu as a faith. I've been talking about Bailu for a minute now, but Rihu refused to accept Bailu as his Lord and Savior until that video. When she came in clutch to heal him, and he used to have a free-to-play account. I don't think he plays on it anymore, you know? But it is what it is. I could see an argument for Japard being a little worse than Bailu for sure. The problem is they both just don't have cleanse, right? Her cleanse is letting you die. Letting you die is her cleanse. Japard's version of cleanse is maybe if I freeze the enemy before they hit you, you won't get debuffed and I'll be fine. You won't get CC'd if I CC them first. That's Japard's game plan. E1 will help you do that. E2, you're gonna get it, but like, damn. But that's how it would go. If I were to explain the Gallagher, Fu Xuan, and Hua Hua thing real quick, I think it's just her energy output, the attack percent or the attack she gives But most importantly, it's the passive everything. Hua has the passive, not just the passive healing. There's something in particular that I noticed that we don't talk about enough when it comes to Ho-Oh. Her passive CC recovery. Her CC recovery, like, she doesn't stop you from getting CC'd. You can get CC'd, but when it's your turn, it's gone. And I love that for her. A good example of this, and a perfect example of this, is imagine when Kafka dominates you, she takes control of your character. That's a free action advance forward. For most teams, you're gonna be pissed off because now you lose a turn, right? She takes you out of the action order, and you're forced to watch her do whatever the fuck you want. When you have Ho-Oh on the team, Ho-Oh dominate. Ho-Oh then lets you get action advance forward for free. Cleanse immediately. It's your turn. You just have full control. There's so many times where I'm fighting Kafka, I want her to dominate my DPS character. Free action advance forward. Ho-Oh cleanses immediately. I got a free action advance forward. It's my turn. You're dead. I love it. I've heard if you have 2 limited sustains, it's really not worth getting a 3rd sustain. So if I have Fu Xuan, is it worth it if I get Aventurine on his rerun, or saving your what's your 2nd sustain? You already have Fu Xuan. Fu Xuan's still strong, don't get me wrong. I think people think whenever I talk about Fu Xuan now, it's like, oh man, you hate Fu Xuan. Like, no, I don't. I don't think she's weak either. I just think Fu Xuan did not keep up with the game. And it's not her fault. It's the game. You're planning for Lingsha? Okay, well then, yeah, no, you're good. I would literally grab Fu Xuan, or keep your Fu Xuan, get get Lingsha, and you're done. You already have Gallagher, who should be free, right? You should have gotten Gallagher for free. So in the event you need someone to benefit for your Acheron team, or break for Firefly, or whatever it is you're doing, just build your Gallagher. You don't need to build up Ho-Oh. You don't have to go fish for it. You don't need to get Aventurine, although he's really good for follow-up. But if you're not going to plan on follow-up, like you're not building as your follow-up attack team, you're fine. Now, I don't know about Lingsha, but it'd be really cool if she was an abundance character with follow-up attacks in her kit. Then you wouldn't need to get Aventurine. So that'd be dope. But I don't know if she has that or not. And I genuinely mean that. I do not know. I had to bench someone's Fu Xuan for Gallagher. I'm telling you, dude, like, Gallagher's so strong. He's such a strong do what I need to do to keep the team alive and add benefit. But, and again, it's not that Fu Xuan is bad. She brings some good value to a team, especially the quantum characters. And that extra, like, 10% crit rate comes in clutch. But I don't think she is keeping up with the game enough, similar to Jingliu or Dill Pickle, that she needs to be in 0.5. I actually think she's just tier 1. Ho-Oh keeps up with the game very well. Gallagher was made for Gen 2, so he's keeping up just fine. Aventurine's Aventurine, and then Lynx is Lynx, right? But I think Fu Xuan sitting down here in tier 1, it's okay. I mean, I think Gallagher's in tier 1 too. But the argument for him being in 0.5 could be made. I would, if someone told me like Gallagher deserves 0.5, I'm not gonna argue. I would not argue. I'm like, you right. And if they said tier 1, I'd go, you right. Like, it goes either or. But I think we did it, right? We cleared everything for... Whew, that was a lot, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. That took a lot out of me, dude. Thank y'all for watching today's video. If you have any like thoughts and concerns, and hopefully what I hope happened, I hope that you guys watched in chunks, because I tried to, as you heard me talk, I tried to slow it down and talk in chunks, so that what I'm saying and why I'm saying it and how I'm explaining it was more easily understood and could be digested without someone having to blitz my entire video. And so now what you're able to do is you guys should be able to watch it in, you know, like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and then call it a day from there. You guys can collect. I want y'all to like collect your think pieces and whatnot, or like process what was said for this, that, and the third, and then type it all out. And like, I don't care if y'all leave multiple comments. I think some like that, maybe that's some weird YouTube rule. I don't know. I don't care. If you have a comment from the damage dealer section, and then you have a comment from the specialist section, and you're like in between 10 minutes apart per comment, bro, just leave a new comment. Like, it's fine, right? Because I'm not gonna respond to a giant 4-chapter addressing comment. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, do whatever you guys want to do, right? This is purely for my community to be able to like process everything going on, where I feel like characters are going. And I do say it a lot. My insight on the game or games in general is just really good. I have really good insight on a lot of things. And I've been able to point out this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. Milkies, you already know I'm the only motherfucker that needs to be getting praised, boy. I don't know if that's a serious comment or not, bro, but I just found it funny that you're at the end of the video and then that's when you decide to say that. But as a first-time chatter too, it's crazy, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna harp on it. It's memes, right? No one take that too seriously, please. Come on, guys. Like, there's no reason for that. We can all have a good time and laugh about it. Anyway, at some point, I will be able to go over Pure Fiction and Apocalyptic Shadow. Maybe those will be their own videos. I'm not entirely too sure. I guess it depends on how this video does. But I'm stalling at this point. I don't need to. It's already an hour-long video, an hour and a half. I'm going to wrap it up. Like the video, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I can't say my jaw trophy is inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.